Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Now being the time and place for a regular meeting of the Board of Directors of the Vallecitos Water District, Wednesday, May 1st at 5 p.m. I'd like to start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Director Elefant, would you do this?
Ready, begin. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, next we're going to be doing a roll call. We're going to be pushing our buttons?
For attendance, yes.
For attendance.
Yes.
All right, so please push the correct button. If you're here, don't push a button if you're not here. And we'll know if anybody's missing or not.
I can't see. Give me 1 second. Yeah.
It's a new system, bear with us. Thank you.
Okay, we're good. It's not going to show.
Okay, so we'll announce we're all here except for
Director Sinella.
Director Sinella.
Everyone is present with the exception of Director Sinella.
Okay, thank you. Okay,
Move to approve agenda. Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Passes. Okay, public comment. Any member of the public wishing to speak, I have one request to speak. And persons wishing to address in a matter not on the agenda may be heard at this time. However, no action will be taken until the matter is placed on a future agenda in accordance with board policy. Public comments are limited to 3 minutes, and I have a form. Please start by stating your name, address, and your topic. And the board is not permitted during this time to enter into a dialogue with the speaker. Mr. Hunsaker.
Mike Hunsaker, 115 Question Court, San Marcos. I attended the latest Finance Committee meeting, and of course you're getting into the budget season seriously. I think one of the things that has been downplayed, overlooked, and not addressed properly is the fire service charges on our bills. And this was added, I think, in about 2012. And it was for the use of fire sprinkler systems in newer homes. And this included a very heavy charge per month based on the number of inches diameter of the service pipe. For an average home, this increased the water flow from 25 gallons per minute capacity to 35. So in a sense, for a new home using a 3/4 inch valve required for 35 gallons per minute, this had some semblance of being related to a service. However, it has very quietly been tacked onto older homes who do not have sprinkler systems and are paying more and more for a service they're not getting. I think this requires some serious consideration at the upcoming budget with a analysis of how this charge has been calculated, where the figures are coming from, and why are older homes being charged for a service they don't receive. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hunsaker. Okay. Now, always a good time for us is we're going to be introducing Rondi, who is our Human Resource Director? Am I right?
I'll take it. Admin Services Manager.
Okay. She's the one in charge. When she comes to introduce a new employee, they're very special, because usually it's Bridget that does it. So thank you very much for being here.
Thank you, Director Martin. And it is my pleasure to introduce our new employee. She's working in my department. You can come on up, Tricia. This is Tricia Wool-Slayer. She's the Risk Management Supervisor, and I didn't mess up her name. It is Wool-Slayer. She was hired on April 15th, and it was due to a retirement of Jerome Janis, if any of you remember Jerome. Tricia, prior to working at the district, Tricia has worked at South Coast Water District, and she was a contractor for the EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency. So she brings with her a wealth of knowledge and experience that we look forward to using here. A fun fact that Tricia provided us with is last year she spent time in Paradise, California as their safety officer when their EOC was implemented during the wildfires.
Oh, wow.
In her free time, Tricia enjoys hiking, scuba diving, and travel. My fun fact that I stole from her is she also loves dogs, so that means she's a good person. And all things Chicago, except for snow and the Bears. So.
I didn't say the Blackhawks, right? I said they're okay.
This is new information.
Go Steelers. Right.
Yeah, go Steelers. So welcome, Tricia, please.
Hi, Tricia. Where do you live?
Currently, I live in Laguna Niguel.
Oh, that's a long drive.
You're worth it.
Oh, that's the right answer.
Almost
makes up for the Bears coming.
I was gonna say, that's no way to get along with the GM up front. Yeah. Okay, this is a long drive, and you're right, because you were with the gold standard, and now you're with the platinum standard
Okay,
for water
all right.
district. So congratulations. Anyone else have a question for Tricia?
Thank you.
If not,
Welcome
welcome aboard. We're glad to have you. Just so you know, where's Ed? Oh, there's Ed. Ed usually scares the bejesus out of them by telling them there's a dance routine they have to do, you know, and they have to answer a bunch of questions. I could think you can do it with her.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Thank you. Okay, presentations. We're going to our own, the real Christopher Robbins.
Thank you, President Martin. So we had the
Blackout.
crazy idea to have a Valentine's Day event at our Meadowlark Reclamation Facility, and it was scheduled for February 14th, Valentine's Day. And I think you all remember it rained buckets that day, and it's slippery and dangerous to give a tour there. So we postponed it a week, and the following week it rained buckets that day. So after several postponements, we were actually able to host this tour of Meadowlark for all the romantic souls out there. And Alicia put together this video that I'd like to share with you. And I've got two of the attendees, Roger and Mary Williams. And they've been married 53 years, and they took
Wow.
time to come and visit with us and actually show you this video.
Terrific. 53 years. Oh, sure. You went all out.
I think my invitation got lost.
Kind of impressed with what I've seen so far. I propose a toast to Vallecitos Water District. Hip, hip, hooray!
Hey, thank you so much for inviting us to this tour. It was really great. We learned a lot of things that we didn't know. We know poop happens, and now we know where it goes.
And don't put dental floss or the flushable wipes in the
That's
toilet.
right.
You know, I really enjoyed this afternoon. I'm learning things I never knew. I thought, okay, the water goes down the drain and something I understood it comes out someplace else. I'm surprised. I'm I'm impressed. I would encourage anyone, come out here and take Vallecitos Water District tour. You'll be pleased and you'll be educated.
53 years. Very nice.
Very nice.
Great.
Can I say something?
Certainly.
Not only did we enjoy the tour, Roger's name was drawn for the free coupon at the Sorrento restaurant. They drew his name. So we had the double whammy, and it was really an excellent, the whole thing was just great. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Were you paid scale for the acting?
I don't know, I didn't exactly get what you said, but,
Oh, I was just joking about getting paid for it.
oh,
It's a joke. But will this be on SMTV?
Probably not this one, but it did make the round on social media. But I could put it on San Marcos TV.
Why not?
why
We'll
not?
do it.
Sure, let the
Why
rest of
not?
the community be jealous.
That's right.
So thank you all very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for a good job.
Keep up the great work.
Thank you. Thank you, folks.
President Martin, while we have Chris up here, I actually wanted to share another video.
Oh.
So we recently had a water main break along Las Posas. Happened, I think, the end of last week, and we had some trouble getting our hands around it, so extended through the weekend into the beginning of this week. And we had a recurrence of it, and we're looking into the causes of it, but Chris and his team were out there and they took some video and I'd like to share with you what it looks like to handle a water main break.
Sorry, Director. Are you ready for me? I was trying to get the size up. Yeah, that's it.
Go for it.
So this is a social media post showing the main break info. Yep. Get Spider-Man out of there, right?
Who is wearing the Spider-Man outfit?
That's the next video up.
Oh,
So we actually think the cause of this was due to a utility company doing some, they're installing new facilities, and we think they impacted our facilities. So we're doing what we can to resolve that issue with the offending company.
Oh, good.
company was
I
it?
don't feel it would be appropriate to say at this point in time.
Was it
but,
electric or television?
more the latter than the force.
Okay.
But, neither specifically. But, anyway, thank you, Chris.
Thank you, Chris. Very nice job. And I had the opportunity, I live close to there, and I drove by there Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, and I watched the guys were all working very, very hard.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of people to move that kind of equipment around. And all the warning signs were up and the cones were up. I mean, it was a great job, but didn't see any backup at all. So thank you again for great staff going out there, working 24/7 to get it done.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Were you out there at all, Ed?
I brought them dinner Monday night.
And you pointed a couple of times.
And yeah, they've been received updates throughout the night. But.
Yeah, okay. Well, thank you very much. Job well done. Yes, ma'am.
I just wanted to say I've been by such arrangements several different times. And I think it's really great that you can show on a video how much equipment is involved in such what looks very small. And then when you look in, you see what a very dangerous situation it is and how difficult it is at night. It's very impressive. I'm glad you were able to put that on, and I hope you will be showing that. That's great. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to the consent calendar.
Actually, we have one more presentation.
Oh, we have another presentation, I'm sorry.
Yeah, if you allow me,
Oh, yes, I'm very sorry.
if you allow me, I can probably tee
I'm
it up.
very sorry, you have no idea.
I could probably tee it up, President Martin, if you'd
Okay,
like.
go right ahead. Thank
So
you.
at a recent board meeting, Director Evans was given an update on what she's been talking about at the County Water Authority meeting. She's a representative down there. And Director Evans had talked a little bit about this alternative conveyance facility that the Water Authority is considering. And the board thought it would be a good idea to hear directly from the Water Authority about that project. So I reached out to their acting general manager, Sandy Curl, and she graciously agreed to come and give an update. So Sandy, welcome coming up to the podium, and it's yours.
Thank
Someone
you.
can bring up the presentation.
Good evening, President Martin and directors. It's a pleasure to be here this evening, and thank you very much for the opportunity to speak to you. By the way, your garden out front looks beautiful. Love the landscaping, really attractive. Okay, so, got it. Okay, so as your general manager said, we have been discussing at the Water Authority a regional conveyance study, and I'm certainly happy to be here today to talk with you about it in a little bit more detail. As you're aware, the Water Authority does not have a pipeline that conveys its Colorado River water. And as you know, we pay Metropolitan Water District to transport all of that water, 280,000 acre feet of QSA supplies. The various components of transportation rate are at the center of the litigation, which the Water Authority and MWD have been in, which I will say we are working very hard to come to settlement. We are having meetings and hopefully can be successful in that. We have rights under the exchange agreement to transport 80,000 acre feet of the canal lining supplies for 110 years. And however, we only have reserve capacity in the exchange agreement through 2047 for the 200,000 acre feet of transfer supplies, meaning the water, 200,000 acre feet of water through MWD's pipeline. So the Water Authority has been considering the benefits of alternative to MWD well before the QSA, and we're proposing to build off of the studies that we have done previously to look at a regional conveyance system for San Diego and the Imperial counties. Past studies have produced basically a no fatal flaws scenario, and as I mentioned, we're looking to build upon the past studies that we have done. The focus of the next round of work that will be completed will be to reconfigure the Water Authority system to take water from the south. We'll look at water quality and pretreatment requirements associated with the Colorado River water, which has much higher TDS levels. And we'll be conducting a comprehensive financial analysis that would compare the independent conveyance option to the price that we pay for MWD. This is all about looking at ratepayer concerns. And finally, we're going to look at building upon our regional partnerships in the Imperial Valley and the private sector, perhaps in the manner that we've done with the Carlsbad desal plant. So switching now, you can see up on the screen, this graphic shows two conveyance alternatives. Corridor 5A is an 84-mile long pipeline with just under 50 miles of tunneling through the Laguna Mountains. And Corridor 5C is a 92-mile long pipeline with just under 10 miles of tunneling. And the cost range for these two alternative conveyance corridor pathways is $2.4 to $2.8 billion. So you might say, well, wow, that sounds like a lot of money. Why would we spend any time and effort to take a look at that? There we go. I should have clicked on. Okay. So under the regional conveyance system, we may have the opportunity to save ratepayers considerable money. Today, we pay $483 per acre foot to transfer the QSA water to San Diego County. If you take that rate and you escalate it at 3% a year over 29 years, we will pay $6 billion to Metropolitan for the transfer of that water. The key point really is that it's looking at, do we rent or do we buy the pipeline that we need to move the water? If you add additional costs associated with local supply development and the California water fix, getting up to a cost of approximately $10 billion is within the range of possibilities. Again, the San Diego Regional Conveyance Pipeline looks like it could come in at a cost of around $3 billion. So that's the reason we want to do some additional studies and take a look at this issue. This really is a regional approach. It's looking at exploring benefits through strategic partnerships. Not only could this transfer our water, it could provide opportunities to move water in various locations for storage, which could help the Imperial Valley out. It could also look at opportunities to bring water to the Salton Sea. We would look at engaging partners with compatible needs and evaluate structures that would reduce the risk for the Water Authority and our member agencies, and most importantly, focusing on pursuing funding opportunities. We have done this previous work. This will build incrementally on what we have gathered so far in the studies. The cost of the work for the 2-year fiscal year budget for 2021 would be $3.9 million to complete this work. So what are the next steps? In May, the Colorado River Working Group, which is a subgroup of the Board of Directors of the Water Authority, will formulate a recommendation to the Board of Directors. And then in June, the board will consider the proposed fiscal year 2021 new CIP budget, which will include the $3.9 million for the study. With that, I just stop right now. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have, and it's kind of a high-level overview, but hopefully gives you a better sense of what we're looking at.
I have a few. This undertaking has been done 2 or 3 times in the past. What's changed today?
A number of things have changed, and it was quite some time ago that we've looked at the studies. The primary factor is number one, looking at the water fix project that is contemplated. Those additional costs which will be put onto the wheeling of water through the MWD pipeline add to the expense that we may pay. Additionally, there's opportunities to create partnerships with the Valley that may benefit both the Valley and the San Diego region in managing water supply that were not previously there. Some advantages of being able to take part in some of the storage that we have in San Diego County during very wet seasons. So there's, again, it's an incremental look at some additional work to be done to be able to decide, is this something we should pursue? And when you're looking at the amount of money that we will be paying to MWD for transporting this water, we felt that it was a prudent decision to move forward with some additional study work on the potential of saving ratepayers money in San Diego County.
Okay, and in the past, we've spent money. The Water Authority's already spent ratepayers' money at looking at this 2 or 3 times. I don't know, you know, how many times, was it 2 or 3?
There's been 3 times that it's been, portions have been looked at. There has not been the full economic analysis as well as the full, are there any fatal flaws in moving the project forward? It has only looked at possible conveyance routes and some very high level look at the overall project. But this would be a little bit more granular to say, are there any fatal flaws in moving this forward, and also to pull in to see what kind of partnerships we may be able to pull in to be able to move the project forward.
We know about partnerships. EIR going to be a major problem for you in that there's already a way to get the water from the Colorado River to us. Mm-hmm. You're suggesting a second way purely for financial reasons. How are you going to handle EIR?
ERR will definitely be a component of it. The fact that there is a pipeline does not preclude another pipeline. It also looks at what are the additional benefits of having that additional pipeline available, both from a risk management standpoint, from a safety in the event of a major earthquake or other types of natural disasters. So that alone would not preclude this pipeline from potentially being considered and moving forward.
And in another aspect, water reuse is the catchword today. And pure water, they're getting ready for it. And I'm going to assume you're the ones that have to buy their water, I'm guessing.
Pure Water is a project of the City of San Diego. There are several other agencies that are working on potable reuse projects in the county, as well as you folks are looking at projects. Those are all taken into consideration as part of our urban water management plan. This is water that is being brought into the region. It's the lowest cost water available that we have today. So finding ways to provide it, transporting it cheaper, provide benefits to the ratepayer in the region.
It's the lowest cost today, but after spending $3 billion, which reality is $6 or $7 billion by the time you really build it, in the water industry, I've learned that if nothing else. I don't know, it doesn't even seem to make any financial sense because you're going to be using less of that, or the need will be less because of water reuse and groundwater and things that everyone's getting involved in now.
We have a commitment to take the water from the QSA. That water is for the San Diego County region. We will have need for that water even with the reuse projects that are moving forward. Again, as outlined in our urban water management plan, we're just about to engage in starting the urban water management plan for 2020, which we will look at that again. So again, this is the cheapest source of water now and for the future, even with looking at the pipeline, because you're either going to pay MET to transport the water or you're going to have your own pipeline here in San Diego County. You're going to either buy it or you're going to rent it. You're going to pay that cost.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? Any questions?
Yeah, have past studies looked at joint projects with Mexico as far as for conveyance projects?
It has not, and that's one of the things that would be considered under this project.
Oh, okay. Thanks.
Thank you very much for your presentation. I think that ends our questions.
Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Thank you for coming up and getting through the traffic.
I'd like to just say, Sandy, that was the most precise overview I've ever seen of it. It was excellent. And how long our meetings have been. It's fun to see it put down simply. And thank you for answering all the questions. Good questions there, Director Martin.
Thank you.
Thank you, okay. Okay, after and before? Oh, LAFCO. Thank you. All right. We are now moving on to what most of us are here for tonight. Approve and adoption of the 2018 water wastewater.
Yep.
President Martin,
calendar.
consent calendar.
Thank you. We're here for you.
I'm always trying to get it done. Consent
Move for
calendar.
approval.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Now I'll save the speech again. We're going to open the hearing, item 2.1, yes, we're going to open the hearing. This is the time and place for a hearing to adopt a resolution of the Board of Directors of the Vallecitos Water District adopting its 2018 Water, Wastewater, and Recycled Water Master Plan and certification of the final programmatic environmental impact report. General Manager Prune?
Thank you, President Martin. So tonight's action is the culminating event of a multi-year effort to update the district's water, recycled water, and wastewater master plan. So in addition to approving the master plan tonight, staff will be asking the board to do three other things too. One is adopt the programmatic environmental impact report. The other is adopt the CEQA findings. and the last will be to adopt the mitigation monitoring and reporting program. So in addition to outlining the district facilities that will be needed to accommodate existing and future customers of the district, the master plan will be the basis of our capital facility fees that we charge developers to make sure that they pay their fair share of future projects. The fees are not on the agenda tonight, just to be clear, but staff will be placing the fees on a future agenda for the board's consideration, and the cap fees cannot be adopted until the master plan is adopted, because the master plan is the base document that supports those. So Rob Scholl is going to actually walk you through the agendized item tonight, and we'd be happy to answer any questions when he's done.
Rob?
Thank you very much, Mr. Prum. Good afternoon, President Martin, members of the board. So what we have before you here is, like the general manager said here, a culmination here of a long road here for the 2018 master plan. And just to kind of emphasize that, you see that the board of directors has had a lot of involvement in this over the years. This is basically the listing of all the times your staff has approached the board with the plan or portions of, or made presentations or workshops since 2014, when we first got started by awarding the master plan contract to Black and Beach. And you'll see half of these activities listed here. These are actually workshops here that we've had for the board on either the entire planning process or portions thereof. So to very briefly kind of go over, these are the objectives the board has already seen here. These are for the record mostly. We've been over the master plan goals. We've been over the components of the master plan and how the water and wastewater capital improvement programs are created here. So those include the duty factors, the demand projections, design criteria. We've been over the CEQA, the program EIR process, going all the way from the notice of preparation through review of the documentations, public comments, as well as responses to comments. And then of course the last item here, which is why we're here today, is the master plan and the program EIR adoption. So what I'm going to do here is go very briefly here over what you, the board, have already seen during the March 7th workshop. You'll probably realize here, this was provided, you'll have a presentation here provided back on March 7th by Mr. Scott Lynch there at Black and Beach, the program manager for the master plan. Also, note here, we also have Mr. John McManus and Mr. Kevin Davis from Black and Beach. They're kind of cheering us on as we go through this last presentation. So as you heard here on March 7th, master plan, this is our document that lets us anticipate and plan for growth in the district. It analyzes the approved land use data from the different jurisdictional agencies. We did have a cutoff date on this land use data. Just to remind you, that was June 30th, 2014. So projects that were approved beyond that date are not included. So it takes that information here, and then the master plan identifies capital improvement infrastructure and projects that'll accommodate those future demands. The master plan also evaluates water resource and supply alternatives, and a lot of these here we're currently doing, such as conservation, desalination, as well as agency connections. We have an agency connection with the Liebenhain Water District, and we're currently in the process of determining groundwater feasibility. I want to point out here, one of the things the master plan does not do, it is not a water supply sufficiency document. That's the job of the urban water management plan. And so I wanted to make that distinction here because there's a lot of public comments that we received here about concerns about water supply sufficiency. As you just heard here from the presentation by Sandra, that is something here that will actually get started, probably starting next year, is the next edition of the urban water management plan. So that's coming up soon. So the product of the master plan is our capital improvement programs. And as you can see, it's fairly robust here. We have 11 pipeline projects for water, 10 reservoir projects, 7 water pump stations. We have 25 sewer pipeline projects, as well as a sewer lift station replacement, and an 8-mile parallel land outfall, as well as wastewater treatments. So when you take the total present day cost of those together, that comes out to about $253 million. The good news on that is that it's backloaded beyond the next 20 years. In other words, most of the costs are anticipated there for phase 5, which is 2036 and beyond. And another thing that you've seen here at March 7th, Mr. Michael Page there of Recon, who's also in the audience, he went over the CEQA process and the program EIR purpose. So the program EIR, its purpose is to evaluate impacts at a high level, programmatic level, for all the capital improvement projects that are in the master plan. Its intent is to disclose any significant impacts here for the CIP, try to identify ways to avoid or reduce those environmental impacts, or consider feasible alternatives instead. This is a tiered system, so the program EIR is kind of a top-tier document. When we actually are ready to get into the planning, design, and construction of the individual capital projects, they'll each have their own CEQA document that's tiered off of this program EIR. And just to emphasize again here, this is a high level, a 30,000 foot level document, but it is not produced in a vacuum. It also includes cumulative effects, or the effects there of other projects from other agencies that we're aware of that could or are currently being either planned or designed. And you see here a listing of kind of the major components or topics that the program EIR covers. So when we start the process of a program EIR, we start with the notice of preparation. We send out the notice of preparation to agencies, their interested individuals, and basically we're asking them to comment on what they would like to see within the environmental document that we're about to construct. So we released this back in November 16th of 2017 for a 45-day public review. We received 9 comment letters from interested individuals and agencies on this. And then we proceeded to go through the process of creating the document. Once we had the draft program EIR ready, we recirculated it for a 45-day public review period between October 22nd and December 7th of 2018. We received 7 comment letters, which Mr. Michael Page and I went over during the March 7th workshop with the board. We also received some additional correspondence following the public review period for the draft PEIR, and I wanted to list these here for the public record. We received 3 different letters from Latham and Watkins there. Those dated March 28th, April 12th, and April 18th of 2019. Basically, Latham and Watkins there, who is representing the Golden Door properties, wanted to express their concerns in regards to water supply inadequacy, demand projection changes, as well as the Colorado River supply cutbacks. We also received a 4th letter on April 24, 2019 from Newland Sierra. Newland Sierra wanted to put their position on the record, and they wanted to point out that their project's water usage would actually be less than what the 2018 master plan would project under its current land use. So these 4 letters have been provided to the board of directors there. I have also placed some copies in the back there for the public if they're interested in reviewing those, and these are going to be part of the public record. Okay, and now to come to the point here of why we're here today. So what we're asking the board to consider here, first of all, is opening the public hearing, which has been done. This allows the public an opportunity to offer comments on the content of the 2018 master plan as well as the final program EIR. Just want to make a note that the public hearing was noticed in the Sunday edition, this previous Sunday of April 28th, in the San Diego Union Tribune. Once that's done, we'll ask that the board president close the public hearing, and we'll ask the board to consider the evidence that was given during the public comment period, as well as the public comments that we received during the draft EIR review process as well. And then based on that, staff has a recommendation that the board adopt the resolution as the general manager has described here, which first of all, it certifies the final program EIR document for the master plan. It adopts the CEQA findings as well as the mitigation monitoring and reporting plan or program. And then finally, it approves the Vallecitos Water District 2018 Water, Wastewater, and Recycled Water Master Plan. And before moving on there, I'd love to entertain any questions the board may have.
Any member of the board have any questions for staff? Seeing none, I do have one request to speak, but are there any other members of the public that have any comments or questions regarding this item? Okay, then Mr. Hunsaker, the floor is yours.
Mike Hunsaker. A plan should be a plan to address all of the challenges that are coming up. We have an explosive population growth, development growth coming up forward. The sandbag figures have not been of much help. Historically, they've called for a very manageable 1% growth rate. But the state typically grows around 3 to 3.2%. This has meant we've been falling further and further behind, following the Sandag's very flawed projections. And its heart, this plan calls for a Sandag, and Sandag, of course, requires you to consider these factors. But on the other hand, if you're going to have a plan to address what is actually happening in our region, it has to be much more comprehensive than a bland 1%. Now, the plan you have calls for a little improvement in that you do catch up, supposedly, in projections, which means that there's much more burden going forward. But still, 1.4% growth in development at this stage of the game is very unrealistic. And the plan, as a consequence, is also unrealistic. There is a requirement that when a plan becomes deeply flawed, and the assumptions that you must make are no longer valid, that a new water plan be done. We live in an environment where we're going to have, quote, affordable housing developments with great exemptions from environmental concerns. That does not mean that our concerns with water, our concerns with waste treatment, and with the environment just go away. The plan is based on 2014 projections during the height of the Great Recession. We are now entering into a very heavy boom time. And my concern is especially that we will not have the facilities available that we need in a timely manner. And that this is just the start of the need for a new plan to address them. For example, there's now a bill before Sacramento which allows projects to have 4 bedrooms to be rented. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Hunsaker. Okay, again, is there any other member here present like to speak on the item? No? Okay, we're gonna close the public hearing. Need a motion.
Move to approve.
Move to close.
Second.
Second. All in favor?
Resolution.
Aye.
That was just a
We
close.
have to
We do have
vote.
a roll call vote on the resolution.
Okay.
If you would make your votes, please.
My light's not on. Your light on?
My light didn't go on either.
My light's not
Did I
on.
vote? Yeah. Okay.
Oh, there.
Ah, lights are on. Nobody's home.
Are all votes in?
I do believe so.
Mine says it's done. Did
Oh, okay, it doesn't show. This is-
Oh, here we, well,
Okay. So all votes are in with Director Sinella absent.
It's 4-0. Unanimous. Thank you. Close the hearing. Does any member, do I need to do it again? Any member of the board of directors have any further questions or discussion? Does any member of the board of directors wish to move adoption of a resolution to the board of directors? Need a motion? Adopting the 2018 Water, Wastewater, and Recycled Water Master Plan
So moved.
and certification of the final programmatic environmental impact report.
Second.
Still so moved. And a second. All in favor? We're ready to vote.
I think,
We'll do a roll call.
okay.
We'll vote. All votes are in with Director Sinella absent.
Unanimous.
There we go.
And as a note, notice of this public hearing was published in the Union Tribune on April 28th, 2019. Okay, now we can move along. Yes,
Can you give us 1 second? I'm conferring with council.
certainly, certainly, certainly.
So just a point of order, President Martin, if we can maybe redo this, because the wording does not refer to the findings and the mitigation monitoring and reporting program. It just talks about adoption of the plan, certification of the program EIR, without mentioning the findings and the mitigation monitoring and reporting.
Okay. So we need to add that?
Well, I don't know, it's in the resolution, but it wasn't in the text that you read. So maybe I can ask Council Gilpin to.
Perhaps you can just take a motion to adopt the resolution that's been proposed, and then take the vote, and that will take care of it.
That would probably be best. The resolution is correct, so if you just ask somebody to make a motion to adopt the resolution as presented.
Move
Would
to approve the
somebody
resolution.
motion? Thank you.
Second.
First and second. And we're gonna vote again.
Voting.
Get some practice. Third time's the charm.
That's right.
Yep.
Okay. All votes are in with Director Sinella absent.
All right.
Unanimous again.
Thank you.
Finally, it's over.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very
It's
much.
always so much easier
Thanks,
this
Rob.
way.
Okay, now we can move to action items. Thank you, staff, for all your hours and hours and hours of work on this. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir.
Oh, acceptance of the operations building locker room expansion.
Okay.
Is it our, what do they call this housing now? You get locked in, you can't get out?
Escape room.
Is that our escape room now? Is that what?
We got safe room.
Is there a certain way to get in and out?
Okay,
Well, thank you, President Martin and members of the board. I'm here to discuss the acceptance for the operations locker expansion project. So as you may recall, the existing locker room space was not large enough to accommodate our existing staff. So this project expanded that space. It increased it by 783 square feet. It increased the number of lockers. If you recall, they were half lockers, now they're full lockers. And it also added 2 sinks and 2 showers. So now the new space is adequate for current staff and also for future growth. So just a quick snapshot of how we got here. This project was actually approved in the fiscal year 15-16 budget. We went through an RFP process. We hired an architect, Jeff Katz and Associates, and the design began in September of 2016. You may recall we received one bid. That was in June 2017. It was over budget, and with only one bid, it wasn't really reflective of what the price was. There was a desire for the board to kind of re-look at it, try to reduce those costs. So we did take this project to the engineering and equipment committee meeting. We kind of went back to the drawing board and tried to see where we could reduce costs, reduce the scope. Out of that, we asked Jeff Katz to extend. We amended their contract for a new design look for a smaller footprint. We went down to a 522 square foot footprint without the shower and sink facilities, but still did include that original design as an alternate option. We also changed the height of the building. We changed out some materials. We reduced the improvements to the existing space. And we ended up rebidding the project last year, this time around March. We received 3 bids. They were competitive, and the board did opt to award the contract to Crew Builders to build the alternate design, which was the full 783 square feet. And that project did begin in June of last year. It was completed in January, and we did have some administrative and punch list items that we needed to wrap up, and that was just recently completed. So we did have 3 change orders for this project, totaling $3,794. Those are detailed in your board packet. Staff did perform the construction management and inspection. We did have some specialty inspection that we hired outside to provide services, as well as the architect did have construction phase services. So I did want to show you a quick video of the project showing it built, and let me take a look at that.
Oh, beautiful. Did I see boots on top of that locker? Oh.
So this is a nice static shot, time lapse of it being built.
It is a very good time lapse.
Steady hand.
As I say, you had to pay overtime, right?
I think it's all about the music.
Oh, yeah. Action music.
This was my hard work right here.
Oh, what is that, $100,000 worth of administration? Oh, there you go.
56 gallons of paper.
Yeah. Just I hope the inside didn't better than the outside. Ooh, showers are perfect.
So it was a collaborative effort putting that together with ops helping us out, and then obviously with Alicia Yerman in our public relation department helped edit that and helped put us together. So we thought it'd be something fun to show the board, and as well as putting it on social media and just showing it being built. So the fiscal impact for the project, we have a budget of $770,000. We had crew builder's price, $433,000. You can see the change orders, as I mentioned, $3,800. Those specialty inspections came in around $10,000. Jeff Katz, their full contract, which was the original design and the redesign, was almost $90,000. Staff, beginning their efforts back in 2015, was $56,000. Of course, the overhead was applied to that. And then we have some miscellaneous costs. Those were the reproduction and advertising costs, again, for bidding it twice that are accounted there. So $717,000, we were $52,000 under budget. That's our surplus. And one of the questions that we often get from the board is kind of where we projected it to be and where we ended up. So I just wanted to pull up a comparison real quick of, get a couple of these things out of the way, of what that looked like at the award of the project. So when we awarded the project, this is April last year, we actually had a budget of $810,000. We had crew builder's price because we were awarding the project. We had a construction change order percentage that's based on our ordinance that we budget for. We estimated about $20,000 in special inspection. We had Jeff Katz's price from the architecture, and then we had a staff time, which was time already spent from 2015 to then, and then projected forward. We had that at about $57,000, and then overhead. So with that, we had about we were showing about a $45,000 surplus. Moving forward into the next fiscal year, we actually did a budget adjustment and cut $40,000 out of the budget, bringing us to $770,000. And then as you can see, change orders came in at less than 1%. The special inspection came in about half of what we projected, and staff time came in just shy under what we projected at $56,000. And so we ended up with a $52,000 surplus. When you consider the $40,000 that we cut, we really came in $92,000 under our original budget. And that is in part due to the board's decision to change the design criteria to bring it into a more reasonable cost, and then just also managing the project through the construction phase. So with that, staff would recommend to the board to accept the project and authorize the filing of the notice of completion and releasing the retention funds to the contractor following a 60-day notice period, provided no claims are filed, and I can answer any questions you may have.
Director Evans?
Well, first I'd like to move for approval, but thank you for the report, and I really appreciate this comparison here at the end. I think it gives a really good understanding of how that money and our budgets work over time. I really appreciate that. That's excellent. And the $40,000, thank you, board, for your decisions to change as well. And then I love the video. I thought that was great. I think we'd all benefit if we could have our lives like that and see what we actually accomplish in a year, because it sure doesn't seem like we do anything. But good job. Thank you. This is excellent.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Great video. Great video.
It was a $100 camera, so there wasn't a lot of effort put into it, and hopefully it didn't show too much.
I have one request and one comment. There's already been a motion, so is there a second?
Second.
Second. The comment is, please don't put this on SMTV. And the other comment is, had I known at the time that we had additional lockers and additional showers right back here, which I never knew, ignorance is no excuse, but I never knew we had those in here. Because that would have taken some of the strain off of those, I'm sure. How many lockers do you have in here?
You talk about the lockers here in Building A?
Yeah.
I can tell you that there's not very many, and those lockers are in high demand, and it is very crowded when staff use those lockers. The Building B, the ops folks, they don't use those lockers. In fact, actually, I take that back. The existing space in Building B was so tight that a few of them did actually come over here and use some of these lockers because they just couldn't get into that existing space.
Do we have administrators that have to use these lockers?
Yes.
They take showers here?
Yeah.
They're out in the field working hard?
No,
Oh.
they typically use them in association with our, I don't know if you call it our wellness room?
program.
Yeah.
Actually, also, we do have inspectors and other people that work out in the field, that even though they work in Building A, that do use those lockers from time to time, and they do get dirty and stuff. But usually it's the staff using it with the wellness facility.
Right. I'm just saying, I took the count down from the number of lockers, because you do have some.
But I think there's only like a dozen.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, I recall that discussion about the potential disruption of Building B staff coming through here to try to use those. So we did discuss that.
Oh, okay.
Your memory's better than me.
Roll call or electronic? Let's do electronic. Yeah.
All votes are in. We have a unanimous with Director Sinella absent.
Great, thank you very much. Thank you very much, staff, for a great job. We're gonna go see it right after the meeting, those of us that want to stay and look at
I
it,
believe Ed's gonna be your tour guide.
but I'm sure it's gonna look great. I'm gonna look for boots on top,
No boots on top.
on an angle. Thank you very much. Okay. We're going to 3.2. Yep, 3.2. Disposition of unanticipated revenue. Director Prune.
Yeah, and I'll take that item, but before I do, just kudos to staff. That video was really good.
Yeah.
I think it was a really good thing to show the board, and we're gonna try to incorporate videos like that in all future projects. This one was a little easier because it was a static project. It wasn't like a long linear project, which most of our work is. That's hard to capture. But when we have projects like this, like if we were to do a lift station or a pump station, we'll try to do something similar, because I think it adds a lot.
Great.
So, okay, so item 3.2 is disposition of unanticipated revenue, and that's not really a defined term, but what we're trying to do is figure out what to do with money that comes in that we had no idea was coming our way. These are not revenues in a class that were greater than we thought. These are revenues we didn't see at all. So the two examples that are in front of the board, one is very early in the fiscal year, we received a settlement check from Diamond Environmental Services for illegal dumping, and that was in the amount of $637,000. That was kind of parked temporarily in the reserve account, the wastewater reserve account. And more recently, we received a rebate check from Aqua JPIA, and that was in a little bit less amount, that was $165,000. So combined, those two unanticipated revenues totaled almost $803,000. The Aqua JPIA check is split about 50-50 between water and wastewater. So the amount for wastewater total, if you looked at the Diamond Environmental and the portion of Aqua JPIA, is about $718,000, and the balance of the 803 would go to the water side of things. So the item in front of the board is, what do you want to do with that unanticipated revenue? Because it wasn't built into our budget projections. We didn't have a plan for this money. So the staff report on page 2 has a few recommendations for the board's consideration. I'll go over those real quickly, and then I do have a recommendation for the board. So one thing we can do is just let the money remain in the reserve accounts where it's temporarily parked right now. We may want to use those funds to pay down existing debt. So maybe money that we borrowed for water or wastewater projects in the past that we're paying interest on. Third, we may want to use those funds to pay down the district's PERS costs, either for district employees or the district's share of the Encina Wastewater Authority PERS costs. We could use some of the funds to pay for fund-specific projects. And what I mean by that is if there's a wastewater project that we may not have otherwise funded, we may use a portion of the wastewater funds that we got in. For example, we've talked about, the issue has been raised in the past about maybe a septage receiving facility study. So we could use the funds for a project like that. We can also use a portion of the Aqua JPIA funds to fund some type of employee recognition event, because it was only through the employees' efforts that we received the $165,000 Aqua JPIA rebate. And the last is any other uses that would be consistent with the applicable fund restrictions. For example, you can't spend the money that should be on the wastewater side on a water project. So that's what I mean by a fund restriction. And clearly, some combination of any of those things above that the board can do. So my recommendation for the board is to put a little bit of the money aside, a little bit of the Aqua JPIA fund aside for an employee appreciation event that's over and above what we normally do for an employee appreciation event. We don't have specific ideas, but if a certain amount could be set aside, such as $5,000, and staff will go figure out how to apportion that amongst, for the employee appreciation event. The other is I would recommend that the vast majority of the total of these, the $803,000, goes towards prepayment on the district's PERS account. That's the single most expensive debt that we have. It's a 7% debt, and it'd be nice to pay that down as quickly as possible. EWA took a recent action to pay down their share of PERS, of which we have about 25%. They want to pay off their full unfunded accrued liability over 3 years. They want to pay 100% of it. Vallecitos' share of that on an annual basis for the next 3 years for that accelerated payment is about $789,000 per year. So the fact that we brought in about $718,000 on the wastewater side, we can almost pay for that share of the EWA burden, or we may choose to more aggressively address the Vallecitos employees' share of PERS. And lastly, we'd like to see if the board has any thoughts about developing a future policy on what to do with any future unanticipated revenue. Right now, our ordinances and resolutions are silent on it. By default, any revenues go into the reserves, and if they're not spent, they stay in the reserves. So we can either handle those in the future on a one-off basis. So for example, if we get another Aqua JPA rate refund check, I can come in front of the board and ask what you want to do with it, or we can develop a policy that would dictate what would be done with it. So those are kind of the three items. Do you want to put money towards an employee appreciation event? Do you want to pay towards PERS? And would you like a policy brought forward for consideration?
Director Hernandez.
Certainly, I think as the employees worked hard to get the JPIA money, I think that's reasonable. Have we got any idea what a study would be for the septage?
No, at this time we don't. We've tossed around some numbers, and they're probably in the $30,000 to $40,000 type of range.
And I know it's probably the only drum being beaten by me, but I think potentially that's a revenue source that would bring dollars into the district. And I certainly would like to see a portion of that money carved out for a study like that to see if in fact it is feasible and what the revenue opportunities would be.
Okay, I definitely think that the bulk, if not all of it, should go to pay down PERS. Whether it pays EWAs or ours, it's all the same 7%, but definitely needs to go pay PERS. We already have an employee appreciation day and an employee appreciation gift. And last year, I think we took the bulk of the money and gave it to our employees, then realizing this year that the reality is we're paying too much to JPIA, and it's not a savings, just that we're overpaying. And I think when he was here, we talked about that. That's not necessarily a savings, it's just that you're being billed too much up front at this point, and we should see that disappear next year. So I don't want to say it was great that it happened last year, but it was a one-time, and we all agreed it was a one-time thought. So I think if you want to put some money into employee appreciation, are you going to make the lunch better or the gift better? I don't know what you're going to do. We already have that appreciation day, though. So if it's to make the gift better, I don't know if that's going to cost very much money. The gifts are pretty nice. The ones that get used, some of them get thrown in the closet and never used. So, but that's my thoughts on it. But the bulk, and if we're going to do a study for a particular people, they should pay for it, not us, in my opinion. So that's my thoughts on that. If we're going to do, for business people, if we're going to do a study, they should pay for it, not us. Anyone else?
Yeah, I concur with the general manager's recommendation with the addition of Director Hernandez's suggestion to also fund that septic receiving facility.
And I confer with the general manager's suggestion. I think that's a great one. I really have no opinion whatsoever on the septic. So that's up to someone else. It doesn't excite me at this time.
I would like to make a motion to approve the manager's recommendation with a small amount going to the staff appreciation and a study up to $30,000.
I'll second that.
Could I get some clarification on the small amount of money? It would be nice if we.
30,000.
5,000 you said?
5,000 extra, 5,000 extra for the employee event, up to 30,000 for the septic
Septic, yes.
receiving facility study.
Can I take a vote?
And the rest towards PERS?
Yes.
Was that part of it? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Please start your vote. We have 3 yes,
Shocker.
1 no, and with Director Sinella absent.
Very good.
Excellent, thank you. Okay, item 3.3. Call for nomination to LAFCO for appointment to Consolidated Redevelopment Oversight Board. And we do have a speaker who has stayed through the entire meeting. Thank you very much.
That says a lot.
Barry Willis, and he's from Alpine, so he had to suffer the traffic getting here as well.
Good evening, President Martin, fellow board members. I'm going to hand out my card, so you have all of you have my cell phone numbers. So I was in Hong Kong when I got the call that I had won the San Diego County LAFCO seat, and I think my feet left the ground about 2 feet. I was so excited, but it's been quite a journey. I made 51 board presentations, believe it or not, out of 59. Yours is one of the few I missed. I missed the vote, darn it. But anyway, I'm here because I wanted to introduce myself. I wanted to get to know all of you personally. I'm going to make it to other boards now that I'm not running for office. And you know the whole joke that you only show up every 4 years when you're running for election. I'm trying to get away from that. But I strongly always believe that if you ask for someone's support, that you come in and appeal to them in person. And so that's what I did. And I got enough to win. And I learned a lot in the process. Boy, I thought Otay Lakes had a big budget to deal with. They were 110 million. You're over 230 million? Is that what I saw? Or even more? Anyway, it was very interesting to hear what... I love the music on the video, by the way. I love that. Anyway, I just wanted all of you to have my cell phone in case anything comes up with LAFCO. I want to get to know all of you. I got my first agenda. I get sworn in this Monday, along with a couple other new members. I don't know how much you guys understand. Oh, do I have 3 minutes? I don't see the thing.
Go ahead.
Okay.
You're fine.
So you said seeing the clock there. Anyway, LAFCO has 13 seats. 2 of them are special districts. And one of the ones that I just won was one of those special district seats. Another one comes up next year. But when I went to all the different boards, five little water boards in Julian, 5 water boards in Palma Valley, it was quite an education. It really was. But I got to know people, and they got to know me, and the time that I want to hear from you the most is when you're ticked off at LAFCO. I'm not afraid of negative information. How else do you improve unless you get negative feedback back? I don't care how good of an organization you are, you can always improve. That's kind of one of my things that I deal with. So I got my first agenda, all 441 pages. Had a few questions for Robert Berry today. Well, it's just one little thing. When I got the call from Keen Simmons when we were over in Hong Kong, I said, ooh, that's a local number from San Diego. He's probably not, and then I heard the message, Keen Simmons. He's probably not calling me to tell me I lost. So, yeah, it was pretty exciting, and I'm glad to be here and meet you all. I loved, one of the things I have highly treasured is learning how all the different boards operate, the different budgets they're dealing with, the problems they're dealing with. the regulations you're dealing with. And it's pretty amazing to see this project you have going, 230 million, wow. I thought Lakes had a big budget, but I'll be around for a little while because I'd like to meet some of you, and I really want to hear. I always give my cell phone number out because I always want to hear what people have to say. You are, in essence, each of the boards in this situation. You're the constituents in this situation, and I really care what you have, what you're thinking. If anything comes before me that affects you, I really want to hear what you have to say. So, I really appreciate your time today.
Thank you, Brad. A couple
Thank
of
you.
questions. First one is, what special district are you with?
I'm with Alpine Fire Board.
Okay.
Yeah, and I was elected in November, and I carried over the same type of philosophy. I wanted to meet people in person. When I ran for Alpine Fire Board, I knocked on 2,500 doors, believe it or not. 2,500. Was out in front of Albertsons Alpine about 50 times. It took a lot of hard work. But it is reassuring that when you put the hard work in, that you win. It's a good feeling. And I really want, I'm serious, I really want, if you guys have anything negative or whatever, I always told the constituents in Alpine, call me. My cell phone number, I don't care how anybody else operates this. You have my cell phone. I want to hear what you have to say.
And another question, have you heard of, or do you know about CSDA?
Oh, yeah. I was there at the dinner for the first one. I introduced myself as a candidate February 20th.
Oh, okay.
I was one of the ones that came up there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and there's another one coming up on the 16th. So I met the LAFCO staff, and they're fabulous. What a great staff. I mean, Barry, Tom, well, I forgot his first. So Keen Simmons, Tammy, Luckett, all of them. They're fabulous. Okay. I'm getting to know them already.
Thank you.
And I'm looking forward to going to the next CSDA dinner.
Any other questions?
No, just congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Barry.
Thanks for
I'll
coming.
be around for a while. I'd like to talk to you.
Okay,
personally.
great. Thank you. Okay, at the end of the action items, reports, general manager report.
There's one other
No,
item.
3.4?
Yeah, 3.4.
Sorry, wow. California Special District Association, CSDA Board of Directors,
Sorry, we didn't do
CB.
any action with item 3.3. We had our speaker.
Right, so the action was to see if there's any interest in
I make a
for
motion.
nomination.
I make a motion, we nominate Barry.
For
Willis. Huh?
Is this for CSDA? Is that?
No,
No,
this
this
is
is still left,
for the.
he's already on.
I think he's already there.
He's already there, right?
Yeah,
He's on
He just can't
LAFCO.
just say hello.
yeah,
to
this
introduce
is,
himself.
Yeah, so
that's a whole different game.
I wanted to see. I'm not asking for your vote.
yeah,
This is a different position.
yeah, so our item, there's actually, there was a regular and an alternate, and both had to withdraw for scheduling conflicts. So they're looking to fill the regular seat, and they're looking for nominations for people that are interested in filling that seat. This is to the Consolidated Redevelopment Oversight Board, right?
Okay. Is anyone on this board interested?
I'm not available.
No.
No one is interested at this board at this time,
Okay.
so no vote will be taken. Then, California Special District Association,
Yeah.
CB. Hold an election for Southern Network California Special District Association Board of Directors, CB. Do we have anyone that's interested in that seat?
So this is actually, I believe, looking for support for Cucamonga Valley Water District Board of Directors Representative Kathleen Teagues, who is running for that board seat.
And
Yeah.
I think Kathleen would be great. She's a hard worker, so I'd like to recommend that we support her.
Sure, I'd second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Save the electronics. All right. We're now through that. Now we'll go to 4.1, the general manager's report.
Yeah, so 3 items. So the first is recently, just earlier this week, CNN did a report on drinking water in California. I just wanted to give a little update to the board. So they covered a study that was done by an environmental advocacy group called the Environmental Working Group. And they stated that contaminants found in public water systems in California could contribute to up to over 15,000 cancer cases for Californians who consume that water over their lifetime. The contaminants that they cited include arsenic, hexavalent chromium, and radioactive materials such as uranium and radium. The study was published in a journal called Environmental Health. That's where it was originally published, and CNN just reported on it. The majority of the risk, according to the study, is for people who consume water mostly from groundwater sources containing arsenic. We don't get water from groundwater sources containing arsenic, so it doesn't affect Vallecitos directly, but we're starting to get calls from people wondering if they should be concerned about their water supply. So that's why I'm bringing it up. And the authors of the report, they believe that interactions between different constituents actually make things worse. So they say, hey, we've studied these things individually. We should study the combined effects of these different contaminants to see if it increases the risk. But their own study, they acknowledge that the work is limited and they can't support their contention that there is a worse effect because these constituents are combined. So it's kind of, it didn't reach a positive conclusion, but they made an allegation out there, and it's got customers concerned about the quality. So I just want to tell people that they shouldn't be worried. In Vallecitos, we don't have hexavalent chromium, we don't have arsenic at great levels, we don't go from groundwater sources. So if you hear anything, please refer people to staff and we can walk them through that.
Mr. President?
Yes, sir.
I think we should put something in our newsletter. This is classic. This is just bloody classic. You throw a report out there, you don't really come to an alternate conclusion that, oh, that's just groundwater. This is just all water. So I think we need to be proactive, put a statement out in our newsletter that explains what the reality of this is.
Okay, I can work with Chris and with Ed, and we can put something together that addresses this study in particular and in general about the safety of water quality in our
If you'd like me to go to CNN, I'd be happy to go and just put my finger right there.
All right. Okay, so second item, if there's no other questions on that one, just again on Monday, Governor Newsom issued an executive order directing state agencies to review and develop plans to improve policies addressing water issues in California. It was very broad, but he wants the agencies to look at chronic water shortages, contaminated drinking water supplies, unaffordable water rates, declining health of rivers and lakes, other water issues. It was a chicken in every pot. It was, let's look at everything. This order does not directly affect local water agencies. So nothing the governor did directly affected Vallecitos. But when he has the state agencies looking at it, it's likely that they're going to develop something that will ultimately affect the local agencies. So stay tuned on that. And just as a reminder, Newsom also indicated support for the downsized water fix project. He's more of a single tunnel, not a double tunnel guy. That was different from the executive order, but also related to Governor Newsom. And the last thing I just want to do is just remind the board that next week is Aqua. So it's up in Monterey, and it's from May 7th to May 10th, and I know many of you will be there, and I'll see you up there. So that's it for my director's report.
Thank you. District Legal Counsel?
I guess it's the,
In terms of following the general manager, he stole my thunder again. The executive order I thought was interesting. He's encouraging his agencies to think differently and to act boldly by developing a comprehensive strategy to build a climate resilient water system. As the general manager mentioned, it doesn't directly affect local agencies, but I think one of the good at least factors in it is that it listed local agencies as important stakeholders. So hopefully the state will be looking for information to go upstream instead of just pushing regulation downstream.
When the governor says act boldly, it concerns me.
San Diego County Water Authority.
Well, one, on that note, there is a good thing. They are not looking locally, but they are have asked the San Diego County Water Authorities for actually a lot of input because they feel they've done a leading job of trying to address the issues. So that's kind of a compliment because we've, as a district, they've spent, as an agency, they've spent a lot of time and energy lobbying and feeling like, oh, it's just Southern California. So that he's reaching out to listen is wonderful on our part, I think. But boldly is a strange word. I missed the last meeting because of jury duty, but I did notice that and I'll pass this summary to you, that one of the bigger items that on the meeting was the board adopted a resolution to allow the general manager to apply for a grant program from the Department of Water Resources Desalination Program for $1.250 million for the Lewis Carlsbad Desal Plant wedge wire screen project. So hopefully that will be of benefit to all of us. And then they've adopted approval for a lot of bills, but I'll just let you take one, pass it on, and you're welcome to look them up for all the details.
Sorry. Okay, that's it?
That's it.
Let's go to Encina wastewater.
We have not had a capital improvement committee meeting yet.
Same thing with policy and finance. We haven't had one since the last meeting. And unfortunately, they're having one on the 7th of May, and I will be at Aqua. So I won't be at that one. And I notified them, let them know. Standing committees?
Haven't had one.
Well, the chair had one, so he probably, not the chair of the committee had one, but he's not here to report on it, so we'll hear his report next time. Director's report on meetings, conferences, seminars attended. We have any of those?
Well, no, but I did hear that our water council meetings have been stopped until further notice because nobody's taking up the charge. Is that what the truth is?
I was discussing something with General Counsel.
Our CAWA meetings are dark because no one is willing to take up the leadership to run them.
Yeah.
Is that true or just
scuttlebutt? I have not heard that.
I'd like to say it's probably true because when Charles Moose stepped down, he resigned, he didn't get reelected, and I stepped in as the vice chair for him and ran as president early. I didn't have no one would step forward as vice president until right near the end, and that was when Steve Castaneda stepped forward. And his entire term, he ran without anyone being willing to fill in as VP. And we were already stretching it was supposed to be a GM and then an elected official and a north and a south. We'd already done all sorts of things to try to take care of that. And I mean, I think I asked 4 or 5 people. Unfortunately, a lot of the people who are connected with have retired. So the new people don't have a clue what it is. And the ones who've done it have probably done it several times now that are left. But I have a feeling that's exactly right. No one would step forward from north or south. Everyone had a reason.
Because really, I thought these were excellent opportunities for connection and interaction, and then the topics, for the most part, were, in the 90% positive. So
well, here's part of the challenge, though. When I did it, it required help, and it was Diane.
Yeah.
So Diane was driving all the way from the other end of the world to those meetings to be there at 6 o'clock. She was spending a great amount of time collecting funds, setting things up, taking care of children. So you have to have someone who has a secretary who's willing to do that. A lot of them, their secretaries, they just don't have the time. And then when the price went up, a lot of people then said, I'm not going to do 50.
Hal to take over.
Oh, I thought you were going for nominations yourself.
Yeah.
No, I am just busy as a one-armed paper hanger, but and I certainly would support somebody, help in any way I could, but no, I can't take the leadership role.
That's the challenge for everybody. And you do have to line up speakers for the whole time, and then you're constantly making sure the speaker's going to be there.
Well, did you say they used to take turns, a board member and a general manager?
Originally, it was the board what was it? It was GMs and board presidents or something like that. It was the when it became CAWU, they were trying to keep it so it wasn't just GMs running it or just select officials. So they were thinking, well, it gives you a nice broad area to pull from.
Well, we all know the best GM.
Huh?
We all know who the best GM is.
Right, but I have a feeling this best GM doesn't have a someone available to spend all that time. And you don't even have an assistant GM to help, so there you go.
You can see who you've been lobbying.
No, that's
You've
just
been
how I feel,
lobbying.
but I think it's too much to ask.
Would it,
One of the things Steve and I had talked about was even the possibility, and there's former presidents who didn't even want to get on a nominating committee, which we tried before, was because they know how tough it is right now. It's very tough. So we talked about maybe doing it every other month, or just, quarterly for a while.
any chance of putting a committee together to do it, as opposed to just,
Well, if you can't get a committee to help nominate someone to run it, I mean, you're welcome to try.
make it a per
But-
diem item and let the ne'er-do-wells show up?
A per diem item?
A per diem item for the committee.
Well, I don't think it's about the per diem to get the
Well, it
committee.
would be.
I think that,
It would automatically would be.
Well, maybe it would be.
The members of
if-
council.
I think all of them are getting per diems, and you would
Yeah.
as a committee. I don't think it's it. I think the issue is everyone's running a very lean machine. Everybody's overbooked and busy, as our world
What
is.
kind of a budget do we have there? Do you have any idea?
Whatever you bring in, there's barely, when I left, there was maybe $6,000, because most of the time, you guys are paying $25, for everything.
Yeah.
And when we moved from the Stone Bridge or Creek or whatever, Stone Ridge, and we moved to this one, you had to pay for audiovisual, and you have to pay for, the room, and then you have to guarantee it. Whereas Stone Ridge had been incredibly lax. They provided a lot of stuff, although not the curtain that we,
Yeah.
but it's a lot. So they're barely making it, and you're stuck with a number.
Wow.
So when it went to $50, where we had this amount of people, you have these meetings where you have 15 and you pay out of your pocket. So I know they've dipped into that. It's a tough thing. It'd be great if some people wanted to reconsider it, but you're gonna have to
Yeah, it was
get,
really-
you have to get the
I thought it was a great
whole group.
meeting. Just trying to find somebody to fill the position.
Yeah. Well, the position's
Well, the old
not,
saying, if
it's
it's
pretty
gonna be, it's up to
thankless.
someone.
What's
Yeah,
that?
Someone's gotta step up and do it,
Yeah.
and get some help to do it.
So,
So,
Well, does it maybe there are others out there like myself that don't understand that this is dark until somebody
I didn't
stepped
know
up.
it, I didn't know it, who did know it?
That's what I
They
mean.
didn't tell us in our last
well,
meeting.
no, they didn't, and I would suggest, I'll give Steve a call, and as the former president, I'll be happy to see if that's where it is. We do need to make a formal notice for it, or you can,
Has it been
Well,
confirmed that they're no longer holding the meetings?
pardon?
Has somebody confirmed they're no longer holding
Well,
the
the
meeting? They were
last
just
meeting
dark
was
in April,
canceled.
right?
Right.
They're normally dark twice a year, December and one other month occasionally. That's
Yep.
typical.
Ah,
But-
Right.
we could have an attorney do it, an attorney's firm do it.
Yes,
Yes, you could.
but you'd have to
You would have
redo the bylaws,
You-
and then you know.
You have
We
to
have
pay 'em.
attorneys do
I
that
think we
too.
should just first confirm that it's been disbanded.
Right. I'm just saying it probably is, but we should confirm it.
What-
So there we'll do. I would like to ask our GM to confirm if the Cowboy meetings are still in existence,
And if the
but it
GM
won't surprise me if they're
If the
not.
GM can come up with a couple of ideas for us as to how to make it happen, not with himself included, whatever, please. Matter of fact, you shouldn't even go to those meetings. Be terrible for you. You got enough on your plate.
I think you should hire an assistant GM just for Cowoo.
There's one. Do you want to take a vote on that last thing? Oh, it's not agenda.
No, it's just,
We should ask Tom.
just a,
Oops. Sorry, out loud. That was out loud, wasn't it?
All right, let's move on. Directors.
All righty.
Standing Committee did Director's Report on Travel Conference Seminars. Did anybody have anything? I was looking back to see if I did. No? Oh, yes, I did. I attended Lake San Marcos Kiwanis Club with, Chris. I always want to say Winnie the Pooh. Chris Robbins, with Chris Robbins, did an excellent job. There were probably about 40 Kiwanians in attendance. I hadn't realized that the San Marcos Kiwanis had folded, so they merged with Lake San Marcos. So there were people there I hadn't seen in years, which is nice to do. But the message was an overview of what the water district does. And Chris did an excellent job, and he filled all the questions. He introduced me, and I said, I'm only here to answer political questions, to which they all laughed, and they started asking political questions. So it was interesting, it was fun, really getting the word out to the public. I'd love to see that happen. I think it's great that we do that. So I've asked Chris to make sure, and I know I have the Lions Club and the Rotary that would also like to do it as well. So thank you very much, Chris, for a job well done. And I complimented him on a couple of different occasions. But that's the one I had. Anybody else? Nothing? Director's comments, future agenda items? Seeing none? Adjourned.